Art is a conversation, and it's a conversation between many people. It can be a conversation between the same person and themselves. It can be a conversation between 100 different combinations. And I feel like this is something that isn't talked about nearly enough just on its own as a concept. And I'd like to thank this comment for bringing it to my attention and making me want to talk about it. So that's what the topic of today's weird vlog art thing is going to be about. People get really swept up in their opinions about the current things, and that always results in the other side saying, well, who cares, it's just a movie, it's just a game, it's nothing, in the grand scheme of things. But that's not true, because art is the canon of our culture. Yes, there have been things omitted from it, things lost from it, and it's a great tragedy for a reason. And that's because we are, in a sense, losing a piece of culture, a unit of culture, a mimetic, if you will, because these things are products of their times that say something specifically about when they were created, at least the ones that, mean something, And I'm not trying to get all high and mighty saying, like, if something doesn't say something profound about life or something, then it's worth nothing. Because it's not. Because, there's even great comedies that, what is it? Zoolander comes to mind. That says a lot about the time it's from. And it's a silly comedy movie. It's about saying something, about having some point to it, like we've talked about in the last couple videos of these. Wow, I guess this is a part 4. I think I said yesterday that one was going to be the finale in the trilogy. All right, it's a tetralogy now. But that's what I mean when I say that, art is a conversation, because it's a conversation with the time period it's in. It can be, there's a lot of films and such that are made in response to other ones, like even sequels and stuff are about, adding on to or challenging what the first film, or the previous one rather, had to say about a certain subject. So I find the point of making this video is to challenge you to try to identify that. Identify in your favorite series, in franchises and such, what the through line is for it thematically, and how each one either builds on it or challenges the previous one. Like, another great example I think of is Shrek 2. Shrek 2 is such a, as silly as it is to bring up Shrek maybe, it's such a phenomenal example of using a sequel to build on a character's journey, to build on the themes of the first one, and overall just increase the density and the meaning of its messages. And, related, another recent one I think many would identify with that was Puss in Boots: The Last Wish that came out last year. It was such a phenomenal movie. I saw that, gosh, I own that movie, and I think I've seen it 5 or 6 times. I love it so much. It has so much to say, and it completely reinvents the series while still staying true to some of the ideas that the original one kind of pitched to the audience. Especially for works that are made to be series, because originally Tolkien wrote The Lord of the Rings as one book, I believe, and it was 1,000 or 1,200 pages long or something, which led to him splitting it up. But there's even an art to having to split something up so that its message is dealt out in both an artistic and comprehensible way that expands on the meaning of each previous entry, even though it was all meant to be one. But even getting away from sequels, just these pieces of art in film and stuff that haven't been erased from history even, but just have disappeared from culture because they had no impact, is because they don't speak to greater human elements. They didn't make an emotional connection. And that's kind of what I'm trying to get at, is that those things that do make that emotional connection and have something to say about the time they're in, about some specific humanistic element, those are the ones that are going to resonate. And that's why art is a conversation, because those ones often start the conversations in art, as in other films being made, video games, music, whatever, that are, the responses to it, the reactions. And that's a very important part of culture, because once we have those conversations and sort those things out, that's what allows us to move forward and, even pitch more ideas. Not to say we're facing one idea at a time or anything. There's always several all at once, but that's the importance of responding to each one and not just letting it live in a void. That's why art becomes influential, even if it's art that's responding to it in a way of just approaching it by pitching its own understanding of something rather than, directly responding to it. It can incite something in someone that leads them to thinking about something more, which will lead to them creating art oftentimes that has to deal with the same subject matter, but, obviously pitch it in their own way. Because at the end of the day, that's what art is. It is perspective, and I encourage you and implore you to dig deep within yourself and find what matters to you so that you can share your perspective with the world, because your voice matters.